Well, welcome back, everybody, to Coffee with Christ. And today we have a very special episode for you. Today is our first guest interview. I'm super excited for you guys to see this episode. It's with Blake, a dear friend of mine, the owner of Column Coffee. Everything for his stuff will be linked in the description in case you guys want to check it out. As well as I'll put timestamps for all the conversations that we have because we have some very good conversations, even though it's a little bit different than our normal here. I will put those in the link below in case you guys want to check out different conversations and just hop around the episode. I encourage you to do that. But other than that, I'll see you guys later. First question I have for you. How long have you worked in coffee?
Oh, man. I started working in coffee back in 2016, I believe.
Okay.
It's been a while. So almost 10 years, coming up on 10 years. It's been a journey. Started out in your normal Starbucks cafe in Barnes & Noble. So not even a true Starbucks. It was like the stepsister of Starbucks.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a learning moment, and then I graduated into a couple of small shops in Nashville, which led me to Brass Horn, actually right down the road here.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was there for a few years. That's where I really grasped the idea of what coffee really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming up on 10 years.
So I was curious when thinking about this. Were you inspired just to go into coffee? Is that why you worked at Starbucks, or was it just you needed a job so you kind of just gravitated towards that?
Kind of both. So I started drinking coffee probably when I was 3. My grandmother, love her to death, but yeah, she would give me like the instant cappuccino packets as a kid. So it's not even true coffee.
Yeah.
It was just sugar and flavoring. But then once I got to like the age of 5, she started giving me actual drip coffee loaded with cream and sugar. So probably worse than the actual cappuccino packets because it had a lot of caffeine. So coffee has always been like in my life, but it wasn't until I moved to the Dallas area in 2016 that I really tried coffee for the first time. Yeah. Up until then, it was always going to Starbucks, getting whatever popular drink is up at the time. Yep. Which again, it's just sugar. So not even coffee. And I was in Texas for a youth internship, actually with Cody. Okay. He was living there at the time. And so I went to this shop called Filtered. It's on downtown McKinney in Texas. And it was a little bit more like your normal local specialty shop. Yeah. So I went in there with a group of my youth interns that I was leading, and one of them suggested I got a pour over. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the heck that is, but let's give it a shot. Yeah. Let's try it out. And it was an Ethiopian pour over. They begged me not to put any cream and sugar in it. I was like, all right, fine. I'll do it. And it changed my life. Yeah. So flash forward when I come back to Murfreesboro, I was looking for a job. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, probably was 2017. Anyway, I was looking for a job in coffee, and I saw that Barnes & Noble was opening. Well, not opening, but they had a little cafe in there. Yeah. Because I've seen the stress that Starbucks employees go through. I'm not calling them baristas because they're not baristas, but they're employees. Yes. I saw the stress they had to go through. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's a lot of stress for no money. Yep. So I went to Barnes & Noble and still no money at all, but a lot less stress. So I did that for a little while. It was just supposed to be a seasonal job that turned into a permanent position. Okay. But then again, that no pay kind of didn't take me anywhere with that. So I ended up leaving there. But it was more, I wanted to see what the coffee industry was like. I wanted to know what it was like to work in it. So that's why I went over to Barnes & Noble. Yeah. So how long were you there for? Oh, shoot. Not long at all. Because at the end of the day, it's a retail job. So you're there. I mean, Black Friday was nuts. Oh yeah, I can imagine. Christmas time is just horrendous. So I was probably there for, I want to say, just under 8 months, probably. And then from there, I went to my next coffee spot was, it's called M Market was the name of the place. It was in downtown Nashville. It was a kind of like a deli / convenience store / coffee shop.
Okay.
It was very
Had it
weird.
all.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was inside Cummins Station, which is now utilized as a corporate building.
Okay.
So tons of different offices are in there, and we were kind of like the one-stop shop for the area, for the building. And the manager there at the time used to be a GM at Frothy Monkey. So he had some knowledge of coffee.
Yeah.
And this is back when Frothy Monkey was actually decent.
Yeah.
And not a restaurant. So, so I was able to gain the bare minimum of understanding what coffee was.
Yeah.
From there, because Starbucks didn't really teach you anything.
Yeah.
It was more of just,
This is
you
what
just
you're
push
supposed
the
to
button
and do it. Yep.
yeah, that was it. And then memorizing how much different pumps go into a drink, and it's just like, I don't want that. So
exactly.
at the market, he taught me what, how to pull a shot, how to weigh out and tamp.
Yeah.
So I was able to learn the very basic of what a barista would do in a specialty shop.
Yeah.
So that was very insightful. And then from there is actually, I bounced around to a couple of jobs after that because of, paying.
Yeah.
The money was not great
Yep.
at the time, because this was 2017. Baristas aren't making the money that they're making right now.
No.
And even now it's still not great, but
Exactly.
just imagine what it was like back then. So it was a little crazy. But then I found my way over at Brass Horn, and that was a better opportunity for me because it was closer. I wasn't driving to Nashville.
Yeah,
and man, it was so great because the thought that James and Jeremy put into the first training, orientation for baristas, because the shop was not open yet. So we started in October. We started training in October, and we opened in November.
Okay.
And so it was a lot. It was intensive training.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, why are we training so hard for coffee? And but it was through that training that I was like, dude, this is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I didn't know how intricate and scientific it can be, and I really gravitated towards that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's led me to where I've been now. So like where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I was able to bounce from there. My wife and I moved to Iowa in 2021. And then when we came back, Brass Horn opened the door again for me to come back and be there for a little bit. And then I had an offer from Honest in Franklin, which you know pretty well. I was able to go over there and roast for a little bit. So I tried my hand at roasting, and it was also $16 an hour.
Oh man!
For coffee for a full-time position.
I felt like a full-time career.
So at that time, I thought I was going to make the Forbes Fortune 500 list, just roasting coffee at Honest. It's not the case at all. Forbes
unfortunately,
Forbes has not reached out to me and asked for an interview yet. But
still waiting on it.
You're still waiting on it. Yeah, hit me up, Forbes. But yeah, so I thought I had it made, and Jeremy and James both encouraged me to take it. Yeah. Because they knew that where Brass Horn was at the time, there was no growth at that moment for me to move to it.
Yeah.
And so they encouraged me to do it. So I went and I learned so much about coffee, more than I thought I already knew. And so that was a huge blessing. But then God had another plan, and that was going into a partnership with Jeremy, actually, to open up a specialty coffee and donut shop. Yeah. That I had the privilege of bringing you on and teaching you a couple things about coffee.
So my coffee journey began.
And so, yeah, that was a crazy adventure. And a lot came out of that season.
A lot of learning.
A lot of learning. Yeah, we're not going to get into the politics of it all, but
in the end, it was all good, right? Like I feel like I learned a lot from it. Like coffee wise, especially. Like, oh my gosh, that's what started me wanting to be in coffee. And I feel like all of that as a learning lesson kind of set me up for life. I'm glad I experienced it early, because now I can kind of pinpoint some certain things and then see that when I'm in a job in the future.
Yeah. You know what not to do.
Exactly.
There was a lot of what not to do.
Exactly.
But I was very fortunate because, I mean, from that, that was my first time being a part owner of anything.
Yeah.
Really. And that was my first time getting to actually truly lead a team like that. Because I've led some teams before in various jobs, but it was never as big as that. Not like as kind of my own thing.
Yeah.
In a sense, it was my own thing. But so yeah, the biggest thing with that was like I had a group of people around me that encouraged me in coffee. Yeah. I mean, my whole journey from Brass Horn on has been Jeremy and James and Brennan also. Yeah. Who you all know. They've championed me through a lot of knowledge. Yeah. Even to this day, they're cheering me on. So
that's awesome.
It's been very fortunate. Yeah.
Community in coffee. We're gonna get into it a little bit later, but I feel like that's such a key component to coffee and what kind of like when you go to a coffee shop, it's what you look for. You look for the aesthetics in the shop, and is it welcoming? Is there a community here, or is it just people that are working trying to get your money, right? And a lot of the prices now going up nowadays, it's very easy for people to say, hey, we got people working behind the counter that are working really hard. Let's charge a ridiculous amount for this and just get the money out of people that we can. When in reality, I think a lot of it has to do with, can we find a small shop that's family owned maybe, and that's looking for like a community, to make a community? And I feel like there's a significant lack of those right now. But I think maybe we're seeing a turnaround a little bit, hopefully, with some new people coming into the space and kind of rising up and realizing, hey, maybe I could do this. You know, maybe I can be the shop that everybody's looking for. Maybe I can do, you know, what people need and what people look for in coffee.
Yeah. No, it's kind of crazy how the landscape of the coffee industry has changed in the past few years alone. I mean, Starbucks has been at the top of the list for the go-to shop for coffee and go-to place to work, to connect with other people and just hang out with a book, whatever that case may be. Starbucks was the place. But now I feel like a lot of people are becoming a little bit more aware of the corporate side of it. Yep. You know, you go to any Starbucks and it feels the exact same. Mm-hmm. The environment feels the same. And if you're just going to Starbucks every time for your place to be, it starts to become stale. Yep. And it's kind of crazy, but if you're there long enough without buying multiple things, they'll kick you out. Yeah. Which is fair to a sense, but at the same time, like the local shops aren't going to kick you out if you're there for 10 hours.
They probably want you there for 10 hours.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, like if you bought something, great. Like, but continue to buy stuff. That's not just a pass to just, you know, mooch Wi-Fi. But but you get the local feel and the charm when you go to a local shop. Yeah. And a lot of people are kind of realizing that. And so
for sure.
I mean, Murfreesboro doesn't have very many shops right now, but you go to Red Bicycle, you go to Brass Horn, you go to Shelley's, and I mean they're constantly staying busy. Oh yeah. Because people need that. They want that charm, and they want to serve. They want to help serve the local community by paying local businesses to stay open. And so, a lot of people are gravitating towards that. And it's so great to see because, I mean, you talk to a lot of people now and they're like, I don't really go to Starbucks much anymore. Yeah. Now, their answer is, I'm going to Dunkin' instead. So that's a whole nother thing.
Maybe you're getting there. You're working up a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to take baby steps with those people because it's like, okay, well, you saw the evil in one. Evil, I don't want to, but you saw the bad in one, and then you go to another one. Yeah. But maybe that's like, it's the baby steps they have to take, Yeah. But no, I'm just glad to see that more and more people are like, hey, local coffee shops are actually pretty dope. Yeah. And I can connect better with people there. Oh, for sure. Because, I mean, how many times have you gone into a shop around here and you're like, man, there's like a lot of people that know each other, and they just sit and like bounce tables basically because they're talking to people that they know and they want to connect with. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing to see. That's one of the big reasons why I got into coffee. Yeah. Because when I was at Filtered in McKinney, it was like that. I mean, I saw a couple people from churches that were just hanging out having coffee. Yeah. I saw some job interviews go down. I saw a couple of different people just coming in and hanging out, reading
Yeah.
books. They had a piano there in the
that's
shop.
cool.
It was really cool. It was like a little beat up piano. But there was people there that were playing piano and just writing songs together.
That's awesome.
In the middle of a coffee shop. And it was like a normal thing. And
That's crazy.
So yeah, aside from the amazing Ethiopian pour over that I had, that's like one of the big things. I was like, oh man, that's really cool. Like I like that about coffee, and you don't really get that anywhere else. You can't.
It's hard.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, some places try. McDonald's is trying to make that happen. Keep trying, McDonald's. It's not going to happen.
You're going to get there eventually.
Yeah. Just maybe one of these days. But no, I really like the way that coffee brings those people together.
Yeah. I do want to highlight for a second. I know you mentioned Shelley's because I don't have this in my notes, but I just kind of thinking this as you said it. Their uniqueness is what I think is also pushing forward to make a community where they have not only can you go there for coffee, you go there for coffee and you stay for the board games, you stay for the game nights they're having, you stay for the trivias. Do you think we're going to start to see more of that happen? Do you think people are going to gravitate towards this idea of combining things together to make a community? Or do you think we're going to see more gravitate towards coffee itself?
Oh man, I definitely want to say both, really, because you have two different ends of spectrums with that. Mm-hmm. So you have the people that have the mindset of I want people to know what coffee really is and truly is, and that's what my focus is. Mm-hmm. But on the other end, you have people like Andrew who loves good coffee, and wants to hire a great manager in Brad to make a really great coffee menu, because that's his forte. But Andrew's mindset was to have really good coffee and a great place to have board games and hang out. Mm-hmm. And so, and both are really great. I mean, you look at what Jeremy's done with Brass Horn, very coffee focused, that also centers around the community. But they don't really offer as many board games and trivia nights. They do more of like your typical coffee shop, jazz nights, different musical nights throughout the week, a little book corner that they just implemented. And they're focusing more on growing as a coffee business, which is fantastic, and they're doing great. And then you look at Shelley's and what Andrew's doing with that, and wanting to grow into, I mean, I don't know if I can say it, but probably grow into other locations.
For sure.
That's everybody's goal, is to do that eventually, if the Lord gives you that pathway. But I want to say that I could see a lot of people finding their niche within coffee shops, whether it be creating a co-working space that serves really good coffee, and that is what you're doing, like, or it being centered around, I don't know, like sports or something, like a sports themed coffee shop. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, I've seen places across the country that have different feels and different niches that they want to gravitate towards. I mean, there's like a Star Wars themed coffee shop, I think in like, I want to say probably Texas, honestly, because everything happens in Texas. But I want to say I saw it somewhere, and I was like, dude, I would 100% go to that. That would be my shop if I was in that area, because I love Star Wars and I love good coffee. So I do see in the near future more and more shops coming up with their own niches. With their own different ideas of how to gravitate towards people in the community. Because everybody's going to have their own ideas. It's much like churches, you know. Everybody has an idea of what they're looking for in a church when they go. And if they go into a brand new church for the first time, they don't feel what they're looking for, so they go to another church. Same way with coffee shops. There's going to be your basics, you know. You're going to have your basic drink menu items. You're going to have your basic pastries that people love. That's why they're on the menu. But you're going to have your small niches that are going to be what draws people in. So I really see, both ends of the spectrum going to be coming up here soon.
One thing that I was just thinking of too is, you know, you see the main customer base, I feel like at Starbucks right now, is people that are on the road constantly or up early and they need a good coffee fast. What do you think will drive people to go away from Starbucks? Those kind of people that are like, I need it fast. Because I feel like people don't understand, yes, you're waiting longer for quality, but they're like, man, it's just coffee either way. And like, I don't taste the difference or something. What what do you think can drive those people towards, hey, maybe look at this, maybe look at these specialty coffee shops and say, man, they're doing stuff that's good and it's worth the wait. It's worth maybe a little bit of extra money than what you're spending. What do you think is going to push that forward to them?
Oh man, innovation, honestly, within the coffee community.
Yeah.
And we've gotten that. So, if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I've been like, they can just get over it. They know what they're getting into when they walk into a specialty coffee shop.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're going to learn real quick, which is a terrible mindset to have when you're serving as a barista.
Yeah.
And so, but looking at it now, looking at the way the industry is kind of going, everybody wants the fast. And I mean, looking at like products coming out of SCA where a lot more automated machines are coming out.
Yeah.
A lot more of bean to cup espresso machines that still heavily rely on good coffee.
Yeah.
The actual processes of water temperature, grind settings, extraction, all of these things you could put into a machine that is automated.
Yeah.
I feel like if more and more specialty shops can be open to that idea, I don't want every specialty shop to be open to that idea.
Yeah.
But I feel if we can get like some good specialty shops to kind of cater towards that crowd, that could be a good gateway.
Oh, for sure.
It could be a really good gateway into what specialty coffee can be for that demographic. But until then, I would say, man, like go on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Go on a weekend where
you're not in a rush.
Where you're not in a rush.
Yeah.
And take time to understand the process, and don't just get your coffee and sit in a corner somewhere. Sit at the bar.
Yeah. Talk to the baristas.
Yeah. Talk to baristas, because baristas thrive to have conversations with guests. Like good baristas do.
It's like 90% of the job.
Right. And having like educational conversations with the guest in a non-demeaning way. And that's really hard for baristas to understand.
Hard. You have to lower your ego a little bit and be like, okay, these people don't know what I know, so let me teach them.
Right. And so like come to terms like with the fact that they probably won't ever get into coffee like you do.
Yeah.
Explain it to them in ways that they can understand. It's like Michael Scott saying, okay, well, explain it to me like I'm 5. All right. That's kind of how we have to do it in an encouraging way.
Yeah. Because it doesn't make them feel stupid. And they're like, well, I'm not going back there because I didn't know 6 of the words he said.
That's why a lot of people like don't go to specialty shops, because they feel intimidated. They look at a menu and they're like, I don't know what to order.
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of doing that before.
Oh, for sure.
I've been guilty of probably making somebody feel bad about it, because when you enter into it, you're like, I know more than you do.
Yeah.
But as you grow and as you learn more and more and kind of see the landscape of the community, you're like, man, these people just don't know.
Yeah.
And so finding good ways to do it. So, but I would say for those people who want to look to get into specialty coffee from a consumer standpoint, again, go on a weekend, go to where you don't have any commitments that you're put in a time crunch for, and just talk to a barista and get to know the barista, honestly. Ask questions about the process.
Yeah.
Because it is a very fascinating thing. You don't have to get into coffee to understand what's going on. Just ask questions.
Yeah.
And through that, you will learn how to order coffee. You'll learn why tamping is important and how it affects your cup.
Yeah.
Compared to an espresso machine that doesn't control any of that stuff, So you get to learn a little bit more, and then through that you can learn how to appreciate.
Oh, for sure.
More. So I would definitely encourage you to go like on a weekend or when you don't have any time.
Yeah.
And then on that same note, encourage baristas, if there's any baristas listening, dude, take it easy with the guest.
Yeah.
Take it easy with how they order. It's so easy to fake a smile with somebody and then go in the back and make fun of them because they wanted a caramel macchiato when they have no idea what a macchiato is. Been there, done that plenty of times.
I think we all have.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a it's a normalcy inside of a barista workflow, but at the same time, it's also very toxic when we have that mentality.
Yeah.
Because then when we do explain coffee to them, we say it in kind of a demeaning tone, and we're probably never going to see that guest again.
Yeah.
And so it's, I would want to also encourage baristas to make it more open for those kind of people.
Oh, for sure. It's in their hands, They're the ones that are providing that opportunity, the experience that you're having, and it's what you make it. And if you're going to make it be rude and demean them for not knowing it, then they're going to feel like that. They're not going to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Baristas need to realize that they're an extension of the owner. The owner can't be behind bar all the time.
That's very true.
And I'm pretty sure when an owner opened up most owners, when they open up a coffee shop, I don't want to say all, but most local coffee shop owners, they do it because they want community.
Yeah.
They want people to experience what they've experienced with coffee.
Yeah.
And so just be that extension.
Yeah.
And just make it a welcoming place for people.
Yeah. Circling back kind of a little bit to your experience in starting working coffee, once you got into coffee, what aspect of it kept you going and kept wanting more and kept working in coffee?
The free shift drinks. No.
The free drinks, man.
No. Really, it was seeing people's faces when they got their coffee.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think, but like when you're in the coffee industry, people thrive for that cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And if they don't have it, they're mean real quick. And they get it and their whole mood changes. And so it's just the little things about coffee that kind of helps people have a joyous day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I found in coffee that really kept me in it, was seeing people become happy because of a drink that I made.
Yeah.
And it was a good feeling for me. And maybe that's just a weird thing that I picked up on. That most people are like, hey, it's a job, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But like that's what I found was getting to build the communication, the conversation that I had with guests.
Yeah.
Because I've always been wanting to talk to people. I've always been in that mindset of getting to know people.
Yeah.
And that's probably because I worked at Chick-fil-A. You may know that that's kind of ingrained in your mind of having that conversation with people.
That's right.
And so working at Chick-fil-A was a blessing and a curse. But you got to understand what good hospitality looked like.
Oh, for sure.
And so having those conversations with guests at Chick-fil-A is a highlight of some of the customers' days. Yeah. And so carrying that into like a coffee industry to where most people are on the go. They want to go to Starbucks because it's go, 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 go. But it's so nice to sit down and have a conversation with an actual human being. Yeah. An actual stranger that you have no idea of knowing. Yeah. And through that, you can find some very meaningful conversations. Even if it's just a, hey, here's your hot latte. Yeah. I hope you have a good day. That can change it around.
They're going to remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was finding the joy in having those conversations over a cup of bean water, you know? So yeah, that's kind of what sucked me into it and has kept me in it. Yeah.
I mean, back to the Chick-fil-A thing too. I feel like those people that have that work ethic, and I can attest to, Chick-fil-A is what gave me the work ethic that I have. Like if I didn't start there, I probably wouldn't be the worker I am today because of how I was formed. It's like almost growing up. It's what you're raised in is kind of how you're going to come out to be. So if you're raised in a good household, you're going to come out to be pretty much a good person, right? But if you're raised in a toxic household, you're going to have all these toxic traits. So being at a place that teaches this is straightforward, this is how you do it like this, and being fast-paced, it teaches you how to work fast, to do multiple things and do that. And even back to what we were just saying, I think that those are the people that we need to work in coffee because they have the patience to work with the customers. They can move fast when needed. They can do all the things that we need to help those people that are going to Starbucks. Maybe, hey, let me try this coffee shop out, and they'll see, man, there is a better experience here. There's better people here, and it's just, maybe costs $2 more, but maybe it's something I need to invest in because I'm happier. The coffee's better, and maybe I wait 5 extra minutes, but that's okay, you know?
I will say, on that note, like I remember the lunch rushes at Chick-fil-A. Chaotic. Yep. So chaotic. But the Chick-fil-A way, put a smile on.
That's right.
Be polite to the guests.
Yep.
have your manners up and ready. Like, you want to make that guest experience during a lunch rush so special.
Yeah.
You translate that into a Saturday rush in a cafe, it's nothing. It's a breeze.
Yep.
And so you're able to have that smile on your face and deliver the same hospitality that you did at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that every coffee shop needs to be like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, not at all.
But there's a big reason why Chick-fil-A is like one of the industry standards for hospitality and customer service, was because like the interactions that guests get through that, and how the composure of the workers during a lunch rush is. It's more of a calm, cool, collected kind of thing. No one's freaking out. No one's running around. There is urgency. You need that during a lunch rush, or any kind of rush for that matter. But that really helped me. I feel like I was able to have a cool, calm, collected mindset when it came to a Saturday rush. Now, that's not to say that a Saturday rush isn't busy. Because by the time that lunch rush, that Saturday rush is gone, you're like, oh man, all right, I made like 700 shots. I pulled 700 shots. I'm done for the day. I'm clocking out. And I mean, you're already like 3 hours into your 4-hour shift. So like, I mean, that's kind of how it is. But dude, I mean, having that mindset is so good, and you don't have to work at Chick-fil-A to develop that. Like, a lot of it falls under who you have in management.
Very true.
And like what you were saying, if you have a good manager that teaches those morals and those standards, your baristas are going to follow that. And again, if you have a good owner, your manager is going to be good. So it all goes back. Yeah, it's all like a trickling effect. Like, you have to start from the top and work your way down.
Correct.
But yeah,
I think too, just somehow imagining when we're talking about Chick-fil-A and the lunch rushes, like there's like 12 people on staff. There's a lot of people. When you go to a coffee shop in a rush, there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 people if they have the staff for it. And I feel like just thinking about it with Chick-fil-A, they are so busy. Obviously, they need a huge staff, right? So they have 12 people doing 12 different tasks that all come together. And I think taking that experience of, so there's one person that is stuffing all the bags, putting all the condiments on the plate. There's one person taking the plate out. There's even just one person walking around checking on all the guests. I think that's a good concept too, to narrow down and to be like, okay, so since it's a little bit more condensed and we're not as slam-packed as Chick-fil-A at a coffee shop, we need to take that and, hey, you need to do these 3 jobs. But I think seeing it is one thing, and being present in, again, I'm not saying go work at Chick-fil-A. You have to work at Chick-fil-A, but just collecting all that together is, man, seeing how they break it down can really help you condense it down to a staff of 3 to 4 people maybe. So I think it was very beneficial to work there. And again, I'll say it again, I think we need those kind of people, not Chick-fil-A people, but people with that mindset of working and having an urgency while also making sure everything's fine and your hospitality's up and checking on guests and doing everything you can. We need those people in coffee, 100%.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you have to love people to work in any kind of hospitality industry job. Yeah. You have to love people.
For sure.
Because that's who you're interacting with.
Yeah.
If you don't love people, don't become a barista.
You're not going to like it at all.
You're not going to like it at all, because you deal with people. And I don't know what it is about coffee shops, but a lot of guests are just so rude. You get a lot of rude people.
Yep.
But you got to love them.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't love people, those situations where you get a rude customer that come in, you're going to escalate the situation even more than it needs to be.
Yep.
Because you don't love those people. So like, you have to love on those people, and it's harder to do if you don't have any prior experience.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a lot of shops I've been to lately have the rudest baristas. And I'm like, I'm not going to go back.
No.
And the crazy thing is, I wasn't rude to those baristas.
Yeah.
I walk up to the counter. I say, hey, how's your day going? I tell them what I want. I try to make conversations with them because I've been on that side of the bar. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
Their day may be very crappy, but how can I make their day better?
Yeah.
Much like being a barista, they have a crappy day. You could tell when a guest is having a bad day.
Oh, for sure.
How can I help turn that around for them?
Yeah.
That's the barista's job. It's not just making coffee, but at the same time, a customer should have that same mentality.
100%.
But yeah, if you don't teach your baristas how to love on people, it's going to be a rough time.
You're not a coffee shop. You're just
yeah. It's going to be you're going to be having.
You're putting
a
on a
rough
show.
time.
You're putting on a show is what you're doing,
and you're going to see turnover from that.
Oh, for sure.
Because people are going to be burnt out because so many bad customers are coming in.
Yeah.
Or you may not build good relationships with your fellow baristas.
Yeah.
So I mean, I always not compare, but I always view a coffee shop like a church.
Mm-hmm.
That's been one of my biggest mindsets of it, because it's like you have people coming into a church.
Yeah.
You have people coming into a coffee shop. If you don't love people and you're on staff at a church, hate to break it to you, but that's not the industry you need to be in.
In the wrong place.
You do not need to be on staff at a church.
That's right.
So same thing with the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to love people.
Yeah.
And carry the community sense forward.
And I've had this idea before. I want to throw it out there. I've thought about it. I don't really know where it would go, but what about a coffee shop church?
Oh man.
What do you think that would entail? Good idea, bad idea?
It depends on what your structure looks like. So there's a coffee shop that I followed recently on Instagram, and I think it's called Omen. I think it was the name of the place. I can't remember where they're at.
Okay.
But I really hope it is Omen. If it's not, and I'm thinking of a different shop, I am so sorry. But I want to say it's Omen, and I recently followed them because, number one, their branding was great.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, as I started following them, I looked and I saw that, they're holding Bible studies.
Oh, wow.
After hours.
Okay.
Open to the public.
That's awesome.
You just show up.
That is awesome.
Weekly Bible studies. They have weekly worship nights or monthly worship nights.
That's even cool.
I don't want to speak for them. I'm not a spokesperson for them, so I don't know their actual schedule. But I saw that it's hosted by the shop, by the owners.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, it speaks into kind of what I created my business to be.
Yeah.
Or what I strive for my business to be. I am not there by any means. But that's kind of like one of the reasons why I wanted to branch out into my own coffee business. Was to do something like that. So the idea of coffee shop church, we can quote it as, it's not a crazy idea.
Yeah.
In fact, I encourage anybody who wants to do something like that to do it.
Yeah.
Because the biggest mindset is, how many people go to a coffee shop that don't know Jesus?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, how many of those people are going to walk into a church?
Yeah.
None, really.
Exactly.
Like a very small percentage will.
Yeah.
And so if we can do what Jesus modeled, and that's bringing the gospel to them, meeting them where they are, it's huge. So yeah, coffee shop church, all for it. For it. And find different ways of doing that. If that's doing a weekly Bible study that you host, perfect.
Yeah, I think that definitely would like classify as a coffee shop church. I mean, you're spreading the word. You're educating people who may not be educated, who want to know, who don't have the resources to like go ask a bunch of people. They can go there and they can learn what they want to learn. They can receive what they want to receive. And I feel like that's what we need. I feel like I wish we had one around here. Like, to be 100% honest, I wish we had one around here.
That's when you come into play, Lynden. All
right,
yeah, that's where you started out.
I'm gonna write down the idea.
Right? Yeah.
Church,
no, you just got to get a loan for like $200,000, and you'll be set. All right.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt just a little bit.
Yeah. You pay that back in like 50 years. No, but it's honestly like, man, there's a lot of like good Christian owners that own coffee shops. That I know. And they may be scared to do something like that because you're going to probably lose, 60% of your customer base.
Yeah.
But you know what? What did God do with 5 loaves and 2? Was 2? Yeah, I forget it now. Man, this is bad. But like, what did he do with the fish and the loaves?
Yeah.
He multiplied it.
Exactly.
Because a little kid was willingly able to give that.
Yeah.
So if you're willingly open to give your shop, if you're able to steward it well,
Yeah.
God will multiply that customer base.
I think it even goes to the saying as well. I just completely lost my thought. What was I going to say? Oh, I'd rather have 3 real friends than 1,000 fake friends.
Yeah.
So you'd rather have real community that's a smaller community than just a huge fake community, basically. It's just kind of using you, and not truly connecting with you. So I would definitely, like, a goal of that would be to make it like connect with everybody. And so if I don't have customers for it, if I lose people for it, sorry, your loss, if anything. And, just wishing they might come back. Like, hey, we do have a Bible study night. Maybe come back. I can kind of help you figure out where you're at, and we can connect somehow. Yeah.
I think it's really important too, again, going back to training baristas to have conversations like that with people, because say you do get people that come into your shop and you're trying to treat it as a segue into the gospel.
Yeah.
And how to reach people for the gospel. If you get somebody that comes in and is having a really rough time in life, and a barista doesn't have a conversation with them, then you just lose an opportunity to talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you do like a weekly Bible study and a barista knows this and starts having conversation with somebody who is going through a really difficult time, okay, cool. This is a perfect opportunity to say, hey, I'm really sorry that this is going on in your life.
Yeah.
Just know that I will pray for you. And if you ever need any kind of help or further community, we have a Bible study that happens at 6:00 every Thursday.
Yeah.
Boom, there's a perfect opportunity to have somebody come in and do that.
I mean, even getting a little bit deeper into it too, you could have just saved somebody's life. You have no clue what they're going through. You really have no clue what circumstances have led them to be at the coffee shop that they're at right there.
Yeah.
So you could potentially save somebody's life. And I like to think of it too as, I even thought of this when I was in coffee, is every person I come across is an opportunity to share the word, at least show the love of God. It doesn't have to be like, hey, man, read this verse or go check out this church or something.
You don't have to preach.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It could simply, as you were saying earlier, it could be, here's your latte, have a blessed day. And that could be it right there. And then that could change their lives. They'd be like, oh, man, that was awesome. They'll come back more. And then they might even figure out, oh, you guys have a Bible study. That'd be interesting to come to.
Yeah.
So as long as you're extending that love and grace, people are going to either receive it or they're going to shove it away. No. It's up to them.
You look at how Jesus cultivated his ministry.
Yeah.
All right. He didn't really sit down one-on-one with somebody and just start preaching the word.
Yeah.
Deeply. Not all the time. There was moments that he did that
for sure
because he's Jesus and he had to get a point across.
Yeah.
But you look at Jesus and he built relationships with people.
Yeah. You have to connect with people. You have to find a even ground almost of where can I connect with you? Because if I just start blabbering about the Bible, you're not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
I need to connect with you first, figure out where you're at and where we can connect. Because once you make the connection is everything. I feel like once you make a connection with somebody and you truly, even just hey, we both like the same color or something, you know? Once you make any sort of connection, you kind of can start establishing a relationship, and it might not even be in the same one-on-one talk. You could have one talk one day and then kind of slowly expand that talk, or do you have an Instagram or something I can reach out to when we have Bible studies or something going on, and then you can just farther make connections, because I feel like that's what people look for a lot.
Oh, 100%.
Back to the community. People look for community in coffee, and once you start making connections, you can grow what I think would be that 3 good friends instead of 1,000 fake ones. You can have the real connections, the people that are going to be in there all day, and my mind's still just running. Once you make those connections with people, they'll be sitting in the cafe. They could farther make those connections with new people that are in for the first time. And then you have customers making connections. And it's just that's something they can relate on, because they're not a worker. They're another customer talking to a customer about what they've experienced here and what they're going through. And it's farther expanding that. Why are we not doing this right now?
Right.
I need to go make a coffee shop church now.
Dude, yeah, no, I mean, a lot of my experience is from a barista standpoint. So I want to encourage baristas to make those connections.
Yeah.
And a really good way of doing it is to learn names.
Mm-hmm.
Learn names. You don't have to learn everybody's name.
Yeah.
If you can, amazing. Do that.
That's perfect.
But find those connections you make with some really awesome customers.
Yeah.
A couple minutes into it, you know that like this conversation's going really well. Really well. I want to know this person more.
Yeah.
Or make them feel special. Hey, what's your name?
Mm-hmm.
It's simple.
Yeah.
Next time they come in, hey, Jim, how you doing?
Yeah.
You know, you keep that up, and then eventually you start having more conversations. You see that they're hanging out by the bar, talking to you as you're making a drink for another guest. They already have their drink in their hand. They want to talk to you.
Yeah.
After you because you know their name.
Mm-hmm.
People feel amazing when you learn their name.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
it's like one of those connections, like I was saying. It's like that when somebody realizes that you remembered their name, they're like, whoa. They're trying to establish something.
Yeah.
They're not just like working for fun, you know?
Exactly. And with that, I mean, I've seen it happen at Brass Horn when I was on shift. I would be talking to a guest that I've met through working at Brass Horn.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know this person before they started coming in.
Yeah.
But I guess we had a really good conversation, or they had a really good conversation with one of my fellow baristas.
Yeah.
And so it's like they started coming in, I started getting to know them, and through that, I'm talking to them while I'm building a shot. But then here's another customer that is a regular that I learned also through the coffee shop that is sitting at the bar as well. And then all of a sudden I introduce them and I bring both of them into a conversation. And then now they're talking after I already walked off to do another task. Yeah. And
you just basically help form a friendship.
Right. And so it's very important. And I would strongly encourage baristas to kind of have that mindset, because you may never be best friends with that customer, but you probably just introduce them to their new best friend.
Exactly.
Or somebody who's probably going through a similar walk of life that can understand what they're going through. Yeah. Or somebody who is not going through that, but is stronger maybe in their faith, or just can help them walk through whatever they're walking through.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, again, it falls back to the church.
Oh, yeah.
And so the connection there. Yeah. That's why one of the big reasons why I love coffee, because it reminds me of how the church can be. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But I mean, I had a similar experience when I was in Onyx a few weeks ago. Actually, probably about a month ago. But my first time ever walking to Onyx headquarters, and that place is massive.
Oh yeah.
And I know there's probably not a whole lot of people in Bentonville, Arkansas. I don't know the population, but it's Arkansas. Yeah. So the barista did a really good job at trying to remember my name. He didn't remember my name when I walked back up after, an hour of hanging out. But when I came back to buy another thing, he tried. Yeah. And that alone made me feel special. Yeah. I'm never going to go see him again, probably. Yeah. Because I don't make it through that part of the country very often. But it's the mindset of trying. Yeah.
And now when you go back to that part of the country, you're like, man, I know a good place to go. They respected me. They weren't really rude to me. Yeah. I know where we can go.
Yeah. And I mean, the name Onyx helps that.
That's true.
But if you're a smaller shop, if you're like, I don't know, John's Coffee. Yeah. Something basic like that. Then have that mentality, because you want somebody to say, hey, I'm in town for a couple of weeks. What's a good coffee shop to go to? Oh, hey, I have a really good one. Yeah. And they make you feel like a celebrity when you walk in. That's what you want. Exactly. You want that 5-star Google review that says that. Yeah. Like, that's what you're looking for. You don't want to have a reputation of having rude baristas.
Oh, for sure.
That gets the order wrong because they just don't care to be there.
Yep. I want to pick on one thing for a second. Talking about the customer thing and building the customer basis. Recently, I've gotten connected back with some people that I'm like, we're really good friends with at Honest, and a lot of them aren't at Honest anymore. And one of the things that I've realized with talking to about 3 or 4 of them, and one still being at Honest, who actually next week is starting at Hank's over there, but he said that once there was one person, I won't name drop him or anything. Hopefully he might be the next guest actually. But wonderful guy, very Christian, and he was like kind of my role model there of seeing him talk to customers and not only just talk to them, but I guess it was just because he was a little bit older too, but he had just these conversation skills that I was like, I wish I had that. Like he could sit down and talk to some random person for 3 hours and continue a conversation. I could probably somewhat do that. I'd get lost a little bit in there, but he could like straight on do it. And I heard from the one guy that was still at Honest that when he just left and went to Hank's, there is now like all of what they thought were regular customers are now 5 minutes down the road at Hank's. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a wonderful example of he truly made connections with people. He wasn't just making conversations because he had to, because he worked there. Mm-hmm. He was truly forming relationships with these people that he was serving to the point where they weren't even there for Honest. They were there for him. Yeah. And then when he moves, they're not even there for Hank's anymore. They're there for him. Mm-hmm. And they're there because they know the community that he's going to make. And even just visiting there last weekend too, the community they have already made there, so like I think it's only a couple weeks old, is incredible. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. And I think that just proves the point of the baristas need to, it's all behind their heart. Because you could just be talking for fun because you're like, I'm a barista, I have to. I'm here, I might as well. But it's truly, are you talking to make that relationship or are you just talking to talk? And I think that proves it right there of if you're really wanting to form these relationships with customers, it will show when stuff like that happens. When you move somewhere else and then all of those customers follow you, it shows that maybe they weren't there for the coffee. Maybe they weren't there for the big name of Honest. They weren't there for that big name and that cup of coffee. They were there for the people that were there. And now they're not there. They're not there.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy how, like, through my years of coffee in the various shops that I've worked at, where a barista would leave and all of a sudden a guest comes in and says, hey, where is so-and-so? Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, yeah, like, they're no longer here. They left. You can see, like, the look of disappointment on their face.
Yep.
Baristas don't understand how special you make people feel when you're doing your job right.
Yeah.
And you don't understand the hole that the other baristas have to fill in that process.
Yep.
It's big shoes to fill, but if every barista is like that, you don't have any issues like that. But it definitely speaks into the volume of the character of that person.
Oh, for sure.
Of that barista that does that. So, I mean, kudos to that guy to build and cultivate those relationships. I know, like, in a place like Honest, it's a little bit easier because, like, 95% of your clientele that walks through Honest is involved in a church.
Yep.
In the Christian music industry all the time. I mean, like you get those connections. So it's a lot easier to connect with those people because they know your heart because they're the same kind of people.
Yeah.
But it's good to also know, like, hey, I'm going to carry this kind of mindset with people that come in that aren't connected to a church.
Exactly.
And then those people can, like, if I leave, follow. And it's not supposed to be like that per se. Like, that's not his mindset of, like, if I leave, I want to take all of Honest
how can
customer
I take
base.
all the customer?
Yeah. It's like a Rolodex of customers. Like that's not going to happen. That's not what anybody's mindset is.
Not at all. I don't even think he probably expected for that to happen. I think he was
not
probably surprised by that happening.
But it makes him feel good whenever he goes to a new place.
Yep.
With no intention of anybody that he made a connection with at Honest to come to his shop now because he's there. That is honestly, no pun intended, how you should be as a barista and not just a barista. Like, I know we keep on, like, talking about it because, you know, it's something that we've been through, but like any job that you're at, that's the mentality to have.
For sure.
Anywhere you're at. I mean, yes, this is called Coffee with Christ, but the focus isn't on coffee.
Not at all.
The focus is on Christ, and that's how it should be. So in any job you're at, be authentic, be genuine with people, and you'll see what can happen through that. Yeah. If you're working in sales, how could you be the best version of you? How can you make connections with people, with the vendors that you're working with? Yeah. Because you could be working with a vendor, or like another, whatever business you're trying to sell to, and you're talking with them, building that relationship with them could go so far, and you could land the sale. Yeah. That's what makes a good salesman a good salesman. I'm not a good salesman mostly because I take no for an answer pretty quickly. I'm like,
Yep.
yep, sorry, my bad, got it. You don't want it? Cool.
Yep.
Have a good day.
That's right.
But you also have to build those relationships.
Oh, for sure.
Because if you just walk in and don't even talk to the person you're trying to sell something to, you might as well not even go in the first place.
Yeah. I'm gonna brag on my dad for a second. Shout out to my dad.
Way to go, Jason.
He recently left his company probably a year and a half ago, and ended up getting pursued by that company because he took the customers with him. They went for him because of that relationship. It didn't matter what the prices were. It didn't matter if the prices went up $1,000. They went to him for that genuine relationship, and it all goes back to like, if you're there to get people's money, they're gonna know it.
Yeah,
and they're gonna pretty easily, especially being in the sales industry, they're gonna see right through you.
Oh, 100%.
They're gonna know that you're there to get the money.
Yeah,
and when you're there for the relationships, they know that, and they're more likely, I mean, it's been proven several times, they're more likely to stay with the person that formed the relationships than just try to get money out of you.
I'm also going to shout your dad out because your dad is awesome.
That's true. Thank you, Dad.
So when I was working at 8th and Roast, number one, it was a drive for me because I was right down the road here driving to West Nashville almost every day, which was rough.
Oh, yeah.
And the money was horrendous. But your dad would come in
and
sit at the bar and have conversations with me.
That's awesome.
And so, like, because he had that mentality of like, I know Barista's going through a bad day, and I know your dad knew me already. Yeah. So that helped, but like, he also knows how important a conversation can go.
For sure.
And I'm sure there was times that he probably was having a rough day, and having a good conversation with somebody was a good way to go.
Yeah.
But your dad was like one of the reasons why I wanted to stay there for a little bit longer, because I enjoyed when he walked in. So it goes to show how important a relationship can go.
Yeah.
Yes, that one was already a pre-built relationship. But even if it wasn't, like, having that moment of my day helped me sustain that to somebody else who walked in. Yeah. He didn't know that. Like, there was a high profile sports figure. And I'll name drop him. I don't care. He's not watching this. Will Compton would come in all the time to that shop. And if you get a celebrity like that, you kind of freeze up. Oh, because especially if you're like a Titans fan, if a Titans player walked in, you're like, oh my gosh, dude, like, this dude is massive, dude. In both like his status and also his physique. Yeah. You don't really want to talk to him. You can become intimidated really quick. It's scary. But I know how important their relationship is, and your dad was just talking to me. Yeah. You know, and so like that actually helped me want to carry that conversation on to somebody else. Yeah. And so I'd have a conversation with him. I'd ask him about his day. I'd ask him like, hey, like, I listened to your last podcast. Yeah. You know, that was so great. Or I see what you guys are doing. Like investing. Like, I know like his life is a little bit more public for me to understand. Yeah. But I was able to ask him questions about that and build a relationship. So anytime he would come in, we'd have a conversation. Yeah. He'd walk up to me. He'd get to know me. Like, it was a cool idea. That's awesome. And so, I mean, having those things, I mean, shoot, at Honest was the same way. How many celebrities go to Honest?
I was just about to mention too, because I was about to point out, we've been talking about all this good stuff, and one thing I feel like I did do wrong there was Candace Owens used to come in. Yeah. Every Saturday, every Sunday, they'd always come in. Even Brett Cooper was there a couple times, and I believe Ben Shapiro was there too. But they would come in, and she specifically would come in all the time. And there was one time where, sorry, Candace, I messed up I didn't even mess up her latte. Apparently it just wasn't hot enough. So she came back, and she was very pregnant too. So I'm not going to hold this to her, but it was a kind of straightforward response, I'll say, to where it was like, this is hot, remake it, right? Or this isn't hot, remake it. Yeah. Make it hotter. And it kind of made me freeze up. And from that point on, I almost held a grudge for a little bit, and I couldn't move past it. And so the whole rest of the time I was at Honest, I could have made this connection with them. Thank goodness the other guy did, because I just fell short of it. And it's hard, but I see what you're saying with when you have something else to like carry over to that, it's so much easier to kind of flow with that. It almost gives you a boost of confidence, you know? Yeah. Like, I can talk to this person, you know, I can get on the same level with them. And I think that's even harder to do, especially in a place like Nashville. In Franklin, you're going to see it a lot with celebrities coming in. Yeah. It's easier to get down on a customer's level, but it's harder to get up on somebody like that's level. You almost have to like bring them down a little bit to your level.
That that's balance. Right. I remember, now we're just kind of like name dropping, which is kind of fun. First of all, to your defense, Candace Owens is a very intimidating person.
Oh my gosh, dude! I didn't know of her until that.
Yeah, no, like she's very intimidating. You don't want to be on the wrong side of a Candace Owens interaction. But she's also great. So anyway, I remember having a conversation. I was roasting one day, and all of a sudden this like film crew walks in, and it's Maddie Mullins and Jordan Felice.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, oh man, like. These two dudes are like huge. Like I'm a huge fan. Yeah. Especially of Maddie Mullins. I've always said like if I can have a cup of coffee with one celebrity, it'd be Maddie Mullins.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, they walked in and they were filming because they're going around Nashville, just going to different coffee shops and rating cups of coffee.
That is awesome.
I don't know if they're doing it anymore, and I wish they would bring it back. But my 5 seconds of fame was being in the background roasting coffee during that video. It's never going to happen again. That's I need my Hollywood Walk of Fame star right now. But I remember having conversations with them because they bring that genuine sense of connecting with people.
Yeah.
I was literally just roasting coffee, and I probably was listening to a Maddie Mullins song when he walked in, or a Memphis Mayfire song. Still the same thing, but like I was like, oh, this is weird. And
I'm listening to you right now, man.
My own little world, and they start like asking me questions. Number one, they generally want to know what I'm doing because it's roasting coffee. A lot of people have questions about it, but you could tell that they cared.
Yeah.
And so it all goes back to finding that genuine sense within yourself to connect with people.
Yeah. To wrap this up too, I thought this was pretty funny. I don't have the picture with me, but I know it was the first time my dad accidentally stopped an eighth and roast, and he took a picture. It's from, I believe, just a table, and it's the funniest thing ever. It's like you're back, and he was like, "Look who I saw." He's working at eighth and roast, and I was like, "I don't know who this person is," but he pulled up the picture. It showed up on his timeline the other day, and I thought it was the funniest thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, he's coming on the show this week." So, funniest thing ever. My dad is just like. I don't know. Again, shout out Dad. He's awesome. Yeah. But it's so funny.
Good job, Jason.
Now, I kind of want to, there's about 100 more questions that I had, but a lot of them got answered in there, so I'm not going to go back to those points. But I do want to talk about your business for a second. So you want to just tell us about Column Coffee and why you started it?
Yeah. So Column is kind of just a product that I've had in my mind for a while that I didn't know I had in my mind. Yeah. It's one of those things like an idea that you had.
Yep.
And funny that you brought up a coffee shop church because that was kind of the idea that I had. So, and over the course of the initial idea to now, it's changed dramatically what it looks like. But Column started as a way to meet people where they are through something that I know I have a passion for, and that is coffee. Yeah. But how can I use that to spread the gospel? And so it does not look anywhere close to the end idea that I have. Yeah. So right now, it's starting out as a coffee cart. I've been able to do some events. I've done a couple of pop-ups in a school, in an elementary school, and I was able to have a couple of conversations with some of the teachers there about Jesus, which is great.
That's awesome.
Now they already knew Jesus, but but the name Column helps with that. So
exactly,
it's kind of like backtracking, but the name Column came from the idea of like the cornerstone, Jesus being the cornerstone of the church.
Yeah.
Which, when I was thinking of a name, I'm terrible with naming stuff.
Same here.
Terrible with naming things. I'm not creative. If I'm playing Madden and I'm doing a creative player, I just put my name in there.
Yeah.
That's the extent of my creativity when it comes to naming stuff. So that's how I know, like, God, like, really put that on my heart.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I was thinking of, like, Christ being the cornerstone of the church. But then I was also thinking about a very popular story that I loved as a kid. Yeah. And that was the story of Samson. What do they tie Samson up to after they cut his hair and he became weak?
I'm guessing a column?
2 pillars, which are also known as columns. What happened when Samson regained his strength? And you just dropped your coaster.
Gotta suck.
Can't do that with a column. No, no. when Samson regained his strength, he brought those pillars down.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole structure of the building was compromised.
Yeah.
And therefore killed people.
Wow.
Killed the
it's
enemies.
Relying on those
yeah.
pillars.
But you think, so that was kind of like the mindset of like a column is strong.
Yeah.
It holds up whatever it's supporting.
Yeah.
The idea with column, coffee that is to be that structural support for the community.
Yeah.
And for the church. And so that was kind of the mindset of it, was be a foundational piece, which God has called us to. And I really wish I'm very good at memorizing scripture. I am not.
Same.
And it's really bad. It's something I'm really trying to work on. But I had read a passage because I wanted to see what other examples in the Bible of a column were. Yeah. And I found one. And man, now I'm blanking on the reference, and this is going to look really bad. But it's okay. I'm not basing my business off of this one column. Yeah. And but off this one verse, I mean. But it was. I want to say it was in 1 Samuel, either 1 or 2 Samuel, and I believe it was like chapter 2, verse 7. Okay. So one of those. Let me see if I can. Yeah, if you want to look it up, please. My phone's over there. Otherwise, I would pull it up. But the premise of that verse was talking about how a column is a foundational piece. Building the temple, having the right columns was very important. Having the right material for the column, the right height, the right width, the right color. All of that was very detrimental to the way that the temple was being built. Yeah. So it was basically a metaphor, or not even a metaphor. It was basically just a symbol of how important a column is. Yeah. And how important having a foundation is. And so that was kind of like the whole mindset of like, how can I be that? I don't want to be that important. How could God make this idea that he put in my heart important enough for the community to help benefit the community? Yeah. And a lot of the ways that I wanted to do that was to serve really good coffee to people, but have a way to open up a conversation. Yeah. And sometimes you're not going to get that doing a coffee cart for a wedding. Yeah. But you know what? People are going to have good coffee. Yeah. And they're like, oh man, that column coffee cart served really good coffee. I want to follow them on Instagram. Yeah. Cool, Instagram. Now I have a platform to post about what column is. Exactly. I'm very bad at posting. So this is my realization that I need to get better now that I'm on a podcast. But that's the mindset of having that opportunity to do that. But also not just going there. Like, I'm not able to do this right now because it's still a very fresh business. Yeah. And the money flow is not flowing, you know? Yeah. That's the reality of starting a business. But my goal is, once I can get established enough to start having a steady stream of income for the business, is I want to be able to donate some of the money that I get to help nonprofits, or even not just nonprofits, but anybody that I know that I come across that is having a rough time. Yeah. Because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're called to do. Exactly. And because I was thinking, I'm like, man, like, I know I can always say column is for the community, columns for the community, columns for the community. But what is column doing for the community? Exactly. How many churches have you gone to that they're like, yeah, you know, we're all about going out into the community and serving, but they don't go out in the community
they
to
just
serve.
Say it, they don't show it.
Exactly. Yep. Like, they have like their like annual serve week. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Yep. And most of the times too, I mean, the churches that I've gone to, and we've been testing the waters for a while, is like, hey, we're doing this serving week, but it's you come serve us so we can build this new thing for our church. Yeah. And then it's like, well, what are the leaders doing? Because like, what the church is doing is one thing. Sure, they're serving, they're helping you, which is helping people. But like, what is the church as a whole? What is that? What is the name doing almost, you know? Right. Like, what is I mean, I don't know of any specific churches off the top of my head right now, but we'll go back to you. What is Column doing for the community, you know? And I think that's what people are gonna like link the name almost to, oh man, they did something over here the other day. I saw they were doing, you know, and then they're gonna be like, wow, they actually are out in the community. They're helping people. They're doing all of this, and then from there, it's like you got a customer basis. Like it's right there in front of you. It's just there, you know?
Yeah, that's how you build connections is through that. And so, that's kind of the idea. It's like, I'm not in the position to do that financially right now.
Yeah.
But I can easily go in the community and find ways to serve.
Oh, for sure.
And so one of the things I like to do once I kind of have more time to research and do is to also help those organizations or those people that need help with volunteers, like a soup kitchen or something like that, that needs help finding volunteers because they're having a hard time doing it. Is building a platform, like in a Column Coffee website, have a little menu for signups for the week. Like I want that. These are all goals that I'm working towards. And again, I'm in the baby steps of my business. Like it's very new. But that's the idea. The mindset is serving the way that Christ served through a business. Because I feel like that's what God has called me to do. And I'm not like, I don't know what Column's going to look like in 10 years. Honestly, who knows if Column's going to be around in 10 years? That's not ultimately my decision. But if Column's only up for 2 years, what has Column done in those 2 years to help the people? And that's kind of like the mindset that we all need to have is like, if God gives us a platform or something to do, don't ever worry about like what you want to do and how you want to build it up. So that way you can have that gain. You know, what do you do in that time to be beneficial to people?
I've even talked about it too. I mean, it happens a lot with me. I don't know if it's just something that's happened to me like personally, but I've gotten in my head so much to where I went to record stuff for like a week straight. And every time I did, I set it up kind of just like this. And I'd be like, man, I don't got 3 cameras. I can't do this. And then I wouldn't record for a whole week. And I kept getting in my head, it was like, I don't have the resource. I don't have the resources to do it. In reality, look at right now, I'm using a phone right now for a camera. So it's like, that's all you really need. God has provided the resources for us, and it's up to us whether or not we're going to use it or not.
Dude, and it's kind of crazy that you said that because like when I said, okay, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do a coffee shop that I can find a way to incorporate Jesus into it. I was like, cool, I need a building. I need a 3 group head espresso machine, preferably a San Remo Cafe Racer,
at least $20,000,
or a Slayer LP. I'll take either one, Lord. I also want to have a $30,000 roaster already installed, ready to rock and roll,
with wholesale accounts set up and ready to go.
Like just everybody flowing in, like lining up at the door for a wholesale partner. Everybody at the door waiting to be a customer. You know, those mindsets. And then I love how the Lord humbles you really quickly
real fast.
when you don't like take into consideration like, hey, I put this on your heart. You're going to do it the way that I'm telling you to do it.
And it's the thing too of thankfulness of at least you even have the opportunity to do it.
Exactly. And so I definitely got humbled real quick. And it was honestly hard because I was like, well, I know I don't have $200,000 to build this massive thing. I don't even have $10,000 to build this massive thing. And so the honest conversation with myself of like, is this my expectation or God's, led me to doing the coffee cart. I still didn't have the financial means for it. I put as much money as I can with the little that I had. But then I opened it up to crowdfunding. Of like, hey, I know that if I'm doing this for the right motivation, the right mentality, the right people are going to help me with this. And luckily enough, I had like some really good people in my life that helped support it. In any way that they were able to give. And through that, I was able to get the foundation of Column started, and that was to do a coffee cart. And so it's, again, still in the early processes, and having a full-time job makes it so hard. Like, it's a challenging thing. And full transparency, I'm like, is it even worth doing it right now?
Yeah.
I'm working in a day job, a full-time job that is in downtown Nashville. I'm driving an hour to hour and a half every day to and from to work, to supply for my family. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. Like, it's hard to do because you want to take any event that you can when it comes to having a coffee cart.
Yeah.
And so the really cool thing with it is that could have been great to get me off the ground, but what can I do to sustain it? Because the thing with when God gives you something and God cultivates that, but it's also up to us to nourish it, you know?
That's right.
And I probably got those words mixed up, but you get the idea. Like we're supposed to steward. God calls us to steward what we're giving. And I was given this, so now how can I steward this to make this into an actual legitimate business that can reach people, to do good in the community. And so with that, like, I'm trying to find different ways to grow. And I'm actually looking into getting into home roasting. Yeah. And so, because thankful that we're in the state of Tennessee that has a bill that passed that you can roast coffee without like having a big facility. Yep. Health permits and all that kind of stuff. So that really is helpful. Now I can only sell in the state of Tennessee, but baby steps.
We'll take it.
The Lord will provide. So I'm looking into that. Like, I'm looking into probably opening up another crowdfunding source to get that, because that's a huge blessing in disguise, is something like a GoFundMe. And I honestly didn't know. I didn't even think about it at first until I listened to Valor Coffee podcast.
Huge shout out.
Shout out to Valor.
Huge shout
They've
out.
helped me out tremendously. And I've not even had their coffee, which I need to do.
I haven't either.
But one of their things that they talk about, even to this day, they're a multi-site coffee shop. Yeah. Multiple wholesale accounts. I mean, shoot, they just had a podcast at SCA with Chris DeFurio of Keys to the Shop, which is huge. Yeah. They're good buddies. Well, I say good buddies, but they have a relationship with Cat and Cloud. Wow. And so it's like
their podcast is awesome.
Talking about like just awesome dudes who started out as a coffee cart and grew this business to what it is. And so it's like, one of the things that they talk about to this day, if they are wanting to do something new with their shop, they go to crowdfunding. Yeah. I feel like
I didn't even think of it like at the beginning until I heard Valor talk about it. And I was like, you know what? I never thought of doing that. And I think it's one of those things too, where we're just human. We get in our head a lot and we're like, it's not going to work. Not going to work. But then when you truly like take a step back and you logically think about the decision that you're about to make and go crowdfunding, it's like, man, this could work. Yeah. And then I like your point too of saying, if it's going to work, then provide. Then God will provide if it's in His will, if it's going to work. But if it's not, there you go. I'll take the sign of it's not going to work. I'll step back.
And that's the big thing is like, so I think it's also a way to humble me, because like if I can go to a bank and I say, hey, I need $20,000 to get this thing up and going. Yeah. And they give me $20,000, but my project is only $10,000. Okay, now I have $10,000 to basically do what I want with. Yeah. If I don't steward that the right way, it can go really badly really quickly. Oh, yeah. But if I do it the way that God is wanting me to, if I open up the crowdfunding, then God will give me what I need. Yeah. And maybe He'll give me less than what I need. Yeah. And He wants me to be creative with it. That's right. And so like it was kind of a humbling way of doing that, but also it was another way for me to actually get community involved. Yeah. And so, that's kind of like where I'm at now, is like I want to open that up again to create something new. Yeah. Because I really do feel like God has put this on my heart for a reason. Yeah. and a good way to steward it is to make sure it doesn't fail. So
That's
which
right.
is as starting a business out, like that's like the biggest thing is like, I don't want this to fail.
Yeah.
How can I not fail? You
There's
lose
a lot
sleep.
of scare there
You
too.
you lose sleep over it, and
Yeah.
I definitely have. And so anyway, moving Colin, like Colin's going to still be a coffee cart.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm able to do events, I will be open to doing it. I'll
Yeah.
be glad to do it. But I really feel like finding a way to get into coffee roasting as well
Yeah.
could be another way of building relationships.
Oh, for sure.
Because especially with the amount of time that I can put into roasting,
Yeah.
you can get into the big details about it, but it's like if I can get like at least a few batches of coffee in an hour, then I can get, the way I factored it in was 86 bags
Yeah.
for one batch.
That's
All
not
right?
bad at all.
I know. Great.
That's
So if I can, get that out and sell it, man, that's an hour of my day
yeah.
right there. And so I'm able to still have time with my family and still
yeah.
make coffee and build a business. But the more I was thinking about it, I was like, man, if I could sell this stuff online,
Yeah.
dude, think about the resources I could put in there to help point people to the gospel.
Yeah.
I could put like little flyers in there and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
that's kind of the idea I'm going through.
Yeah.
So
And I'll
this is
just say too, when I get coffee, I love having little stickers, a little postcard,
Right,
a little something
exactly.
inside.
Yeah.
I love it, dude.
yeah, dude. That reminds me. I meant to bring you a sticker and I forgot.
Next time.
Sorry.
We'll do it. I feel like there's so much that we haven't covered yet, and we're already
dude.
far in that there's going to be a part 2 to this.
Yeah,
at some
hey,
point.
that's
there's
fine.
a lot going on.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I talk about coffee and Jesus. I just keep it going. But like full transparency with Colin, man. Like this is kind of like it's a brand new thing.
Yeah.
I've been at it for a few months, and it's still in the baby steps of it. And so I'm just working through ideas on how I can sustain it.
Yeah.
To reach more people.
Yeah.
And how I can actually cultivate it in the way that God has called me to do that.
That's awesome.
So, that's the hindsight of it all. That the goal with it is, yes, to serve really good coffee and hopefully roast really good coffee.
Yeah.
But the main objective is to how can I get in the community and actually be what God called us to be.
Yeah.
In the community, do what churches say they want to do, and that's to serve. And so, how can I do that?
Yeah.
And then also, how can I just build the relationships that you and I were talking about?
Yeah.
And how to reach those people for Jesus.
Yeah. I think too, back on a little bit, like kind of the middle of what you were talking about nourishing it, getting the idea and then nourishing it. I think there's 2 points to that where people these days, it's easy to kind of point out where people are taking the easy route and not nourishing it right. And I think it goes back to what I was saying with growing up in the right household, where people will get these ideas and be like, how can I make money out of it? How can I get this up and going as fast as possible? And then that's where their idea crashes. But it could have been a good idea if they just nourished it the right way. So I think it's important to note that nourishing is the most important step. And having an idea is taking a step back for one and realizing that it's God's idea and God's plan for you. So don't step into it too fast. Don't rush into it.
Yeah.
And there's also a side of that of there's not a lot of people in the world. People want quick money, quick business as fast as they can get it. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want to put in the work. And I feel like what you're doing is slow work, but the slow things, the small things are more important in the long run. And it's a thing too of recently I heard it from some podcasts where they were talking about if you have fast growth, you get a bunch of people watching your stuff, you get numbers, you get money, but it's more likely to fall off faster because there's no real connections made. Back to the connections again, as well as easy come, easy go. So if it's easy come to you, it's easy going to go, and you're really not forming what you genuinely want, and it's going to go faster, and then you're just basically not going to have it anymore because it's just going to fall down to almost nothing. And you kind of want to think of it going slow and having the small steps is building a portfolio. Not a lot of people have eyes on it now, but once you do get a lot of eyes on you, what you've done in the past will have eyes on it. And so it's like building a portfolio, and I love that little idea. I wish I remembered who it was from, but I thought that was wonderful. But people aren't willing to put in that work. They want to see quick results, quick stuff as fast as they can. How can I get money really fast. And I've seen people do it. I have friends that do it. Not going to name drop anybody, but you can tell by going to some of their pages. It's like, this is as fast as I can do.
And it's crazy because like we live in a society now that everybody wants to be an Instagram influencer, social media influencer, because it's passive income. Mm-hmm. Passive. Yep. You got to build that. They don't understand the work you have to put into being an influencer.
That's right.
Or they're like looking for that passive income.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the biggest passive incomes right now is like managing e-commerce stores.
Yeah. There's like 13-year-olds doing it.
It's and they're making money doing it.
Oh yeah.
But like that's the mindset. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody want, like if you ask some kids nowadays, like they want to be a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer. It's like, yeah, okay, but like
let's be realistic in the long run.
Because you're putting in work for it. Mm-hmm. But are you though? Like because I feel like nowadays anybody can become famous for anything.
Exactly. It's really just luck, especially being honestly and having different kind of sides on different platforms, doing coffee stuff to doing this stuff now. It's a lot of luck. Yeah, it really is, because you'll have one episode that's like, man, that got 3,000 views. The next one has 2, and you're like, how did that even happen? Yeah. And then people go too far into it and are like, well, you got to upload it this exact second and this exact minute. And then it's like, now we're making this more than it really is, Right. Everybody's just posting videos if we're just looking at broadly, everybody's just posting videos. It's who has good intention behind it, who has a good heart behind it. And I feel like the people I like watching form relationships and have small numbers, because I would rather connect with somebody smaller than connect with 700 million subscriber Mr. Beast, who just does stuff so people can watch it and he gets more money. Yeah. And that's all people are focused on, is getting money. And when you're focused on that, I think, at least to me, it's super easy to see. And it's super easy to see that, man, you don't really want to do this. What's going to happen is you're going to get all the money, get all the fame, and then you're going to drop off the face of the earth because you got what you wanted. Yeah. And then it's like, well, why did you worked for all this just to let it go? And then when you try and come back, people are going to be like, man, you're only here for the money, so there's no reason to come back. And then you're just downfalling this huge, like, fall down a mountain basically, and you're gone.
I want to go back to shouting out Valor. Yeah. So listening to their podcasts and listening to how they built their shop that they built. Yeah. Dude, they went on a grind. Mm-hmm. And what I love about them as an owner, they're very transparent on their podcast. Oh yeah. They're very transparent with how much money they make. Yep. Or don't make. Exactly. And they're very open with it, but then like they're also very open with what they do within the shop. Yeah. To this day, as owners, they're in there every day. Yeah. I forget which one of the owners, which one of the guys it is, but one of the guys is doing their website, e-commerce, wholesale, all of like the back end programming, like all this stuff. Like he's doing hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of work. Yeah. Just for one of those things. Mm-hmm. And he's doing multiple. Yeah. And so it really goes to show, like, I mean, I don't know I forgot how old Valor is. I want to say they're probably like,
I think it's
5 years,
I was
maybe.
Say 4
I don't know.
5 years. Yeah.
I really hope they don't come after me and correct me on that.
How dare you?
Sorry. No, but like they've been at it for a while. They were 18 and 19 when they started one singular coffee cart, and now they're a multi-site coffee shop. And they're still working hard at it. And so, that's one of the big things is like starting out small, dude. I'm tired. Yeah. I'm tired because it's like, finding the time to do it. But, and there's times where I question, like, am I actually supposed to be doing this? Yeah. And then I go to an event, and I serve coffee. Okay. Cody's wedding, for this past month. I went just for Cody because I love that dude. Yeah. But he also wanted me to have a platform to make Column known to some people.
That's awesome.
And he texted me about a week ago, and it's like, dude, I just had coffee with one of the pastors that was at my wedding, and he was just raving about how good the coffee was. Dude. And I'm like, okay. I didn't roast it. I just pulled the shot, and I'm so thankful for that, because like something like a feedback like that, you don't know how many times I'm like about to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
There's no money coming in. And any money that I have is going right back into paying for the business.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a single cent from that.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It is.
But like then I get a text like that I'm like, all right, cool. Like let's just keep going along.
I think it happens at the right time too. I think God knows when to. You need that motivation almost, right?
Yeah.
You need that little push forward, even if it's something just like that. So, like I say, simple, but just like a simple text could push you forward months and be like, man, I'm doing it for this now. For the next 4 months, so I'm dedicating to this, whatever, and then you're on for a while. And I think He knows when you're getting to that point and provides when it needs to be provided.
Yeah, and it's really nice because it's like. You don't want to live for that validation, but sometimes you need that encouragement of like keep going. And so like luckily enough, God's put me in a couple of the events that I've been at to get that positive feedback because He knows how close I am to throwing in the towel because it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
But then it's because of that He reminds me like, hey, are you throwing in the towel because it's too hard, or are you throwing in the towel because you just don't want to serve people anymore?
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, ouch. Yeah.
That's a tough question.
So it's like, it's hard but I do want to serve people.
Yeah.
And
it all goes back to the motive.
Yeah.
What is the true motive? Why are you doing this? Why do it? Why even start it? And I feel like, again, back to the thing, it's so easy to see if people are doing it for money or for something else. It's all the motive. I want to speak on the validation too. I feel like the validation from people, yes, like you said, we need that. Like we do need that, but it means more when it comes from a stranger because they don't know you. They don't need to make you feel good. They don't know who you are. They don't need to make your feelings not hurt by saying something mean. So they're truly meaning. That's how you know it's truly meant. Now, I'm not saying it's not good from friends, but a lot of times they can be like, oh, dude, what you're doing is awesome, man. I love it. But when it comes from a stranger, somebody you have no clue who they are, you've never met them, you have no clue what they went through, and they have no clue what you went through, it means a lot more because they're genuinely meaning it. And so He puts those people in our lives, like Cody, to be almost a middleman for that to happen, for somebody to reach out and be like, dude, coffee was amazing. And then that inspires you and pushes you forward a little bit. I think it's perfectly timed in His plan. Perfectly timed.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy that you said that, the way that you said that. Because I just had a conversation with my wife about that. It was, okay, when you get into a marriage, you're each other's biggest supporter, biggest fan, right?
Yep.
And she's been super solid lately.
Yeah.
And she'll tell me, she's like, yeah, you're doing great. You got this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Because you expect that from your wife, from your significant other. And so it's like, but then you get that same exact phrase from somebody else, a complete stranger, and you're like, oh, I can do this. This is great. And then she's like, well, I told you that. But no, it's just kind of funny that you said that because that's what we just had that conversation.
That's hilarious.
I think last week or something. And it was about Colin because, it's a grind. You take full ownership because you're an owner. Yeah. And so, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to go into like a partnership thing is because I wanted this, like if this were to fail, it's because of me. If it is to succeed, it's because of God and nobody else involved.
Yeah. And that's hard to come to, man. That is not an easy thing to just
it's rough.
Come to realization.
It's rough, but that's where God puts the right words of affirmation that I need at the right time to keep going. And so, it's a grind.
Oh, for sure.
It's a grind, but it's a good grind.
Yeah. I have one business related question left. And this one's, I don't know where this one's going to go. Okay. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was it to start a coffee business?
10.
10? Okay.
10.
That's what I was thinking around there.
So, and that's any business you're going to start. Yeah. Because you have to go in and do your research. Yeah. About what you're needing. And so, especially when it comes to coffee, I mean, and it's being in coffee as long as I have, or in any amount of time, really, you learn different machines. Yeah. And you're like, man, what kind of machine should I get? Okay. Well, there's only really like 3, maybe 4 good single group head espresso machines that you can transport. Yep. And it's like, okay, well, now what kind of espresso grinder do I want? Now you have a little bit more to work through.
Yeah.
And so like it's hard because you have to think about these details, and then you have to think about things that you don't think of.
Yep.
Like, cool. So how am I going to plumb this?
Yep.
Where's water going to come in at? I'm not a plumber. I am not a plumber.
Yep.
Okay. And so it's like watching infinite amount of YouTube videos where there's no YouTube video
Yeah.
to plumb a coffee cart.
Yep.
And so it's like, and if there are, it's like a very basic, not teaching you how to do it.
It's like already plumbed. This is what this is what it looks like.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's like, okay, cool. Like, what kind of pump do you have?
Yeah.
What kind of accumulator do you have? Like,
Yeah.
it's these things that you don't think of. And then it's just like, all right, cool. Now I have the machines in my mind that I want. Okay, now how big does my cart actually have to be?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a great resource called Simple Cart Systems. No free shout outs. But no, and they're great.
Oh yeah.
But they're also expensive.
Very.
And so luckily enough, I have an amazing uncle that started his own carpentry business. He's very handy with like woodworking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll build you a cart. Like, I asked him, like, hey, could you do something like this? He's like, yeah, just build out the plans. And so I didn't know how big I needed it to be. I took the general dimensions and everything that they had on Simple Cart Systems.
Yeah.
And I was like, if it works for them, it
It'll
could be a
work.
good size for me too. And but he built a really great cart.
That's awesome.
So like, thankfully I had that, because
Yeah.
if I didn't, I'd be like, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely a 10 on starting it out, because
Okay.
you got to figure out how you're going to get money for it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest, like, we had talked about going to crowdfunding, and another reason why I went that route was because I knew that if I went into an investor side of things, or I went into a business loan kind of thing, with the business loan, you're going to have some sort of payback with that, and you're paying interest. You know, you have to pay the bank back, and then whatever they're charging on top of that, so they can make money on it.
Yep.
I didn't want to do that.
Not at all.
No, especially in something like a coffee cart where, you know, I'm not doing it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I could go 3 months without having an event.
Yeah.
My last event was in May, the middle of May. I've not had one since.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I have a potential one in November.
Yeah. So there's some.
So there's a gap.
Yeah.
So, and if I had that gap, I don't know how I'm going to pay them back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going through that right now. We're trying to figure out how to pay my espresso machine.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a hard thing. So it's like, I didn't want to have that extra burden of trying to pay back a bank.
Yeah.
And there's a whole like other legality sides of that. The bank needs some sort of collateral.
Yep.
Well, I'm not about to put my brand new house
Yeah.
that I'm still struggling to pay for on the collateral page for the bank. You know, so it's like, you don't think about those things when you're like initially saying, hey, I want to start a business.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because you have to have the right mindset. But it's all, I mean, you can't get defeated too quickly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the hardest part, is not taking like full ownership of it. Cause you have to take full ownership of it.
Yeah.
But it can also hurt you at the same time. It's a weird concept that I'm learning.
Yeah.
But man, again, when I go to an event and I see people, like, I went to my first event, and I'm not sure if you know these people, because they were at the church way before you guys were.
Okay.
But they asked me to do their 3-year-old birthday party. And I was like, absolutely, this is my very first event.
Yeah.
And so I didn't charge them. I was like, I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Because at that point you have to take whatever you can get, and
That's
I'm still at that point, really.
Yeah.
But dude, it was kind of crazy because you get parents coming to a 3-year-old birthday party that are so excited that there's coffee there.
Yep.
Like good coffee. They're like, whoa, I didn't know this would be here. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then like they're like intrigued with what I'm doing. And I was stressed.
Oh, dude.
because they all just flocked to the cart.
Yep.
And it was free of charge.
Yeah.
So there was no waiting in line to pay and all that kind of stuff. So I think at one time I probably had like 15 drinks lined up.
Oh my gosh.
For a single group, like espresso machine. And thankfully I went with the La Marzocco Linea Mini.
Where's the sponsorship?
No sponsorships. Come on, La Marzocco, get on it. But and I had my Eureka Olympus just going.
Yeah.
And so it was like just pumping out some shots. I said Olympus, is actually Atom. Gotta get that correct. No, but like, and that's kind of, you need that idea. Like that's what makes it hard about trying to figure out the right gear to get, because you got to think about volume. But yeah, no, I had like 15 drinks lined up.
That's crazy.
And if I had crappy equipment,
I
wouldn't make it through that 15 drink lineup.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even all the drinks that I made. Like it was like, I think I probably ended up making like 30 drinks.
That's not bad at all.
30 or 40 drinks.
That's not bad at all.
It was kind of crazy. I lost count.
Yeah.
But it was seeing those people's faces when they came up to a 3-year-old birthday party, not knowing there's going to be coffee there. That made it all worth it.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm stressing. I'm like, dude, this is so hard. I didn't have my plumbing together at that point. So I had gallons of distilled water jugs and third wave water espresso packets
Shout out again.
lined up, ready to go. And I was filling my water reservoir multiple times.
That's crazy.
I still don't have this together yet. So I need to get that figured out. But my hand sink isn't hooked up the way I need it to, because I have to go through a water heater. And so like, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And so, because I didn't have my plumbing together, my pitcher rinser wasn't hooked up.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I'm rinsing out my pitcher with the gallon jug of distilled water. And so and because I don't have my plumbing together, I did have my drain, my wastewater bucket. So I did have.
I was just about to ask.
So I was able to at least drain something.
That'd be problematic.
But it was, dude, it was a challenge. It was so hard. But how excited the people were, the parents were at that party, made it all worth it. And then going through it again, trying to figure out the in between time of how I have all this space between this event and my next event. How can I make my cart better? How can I set myself up better? And how can I have the guests have a better experience? And then my next event was at Mount Juliet Elementary School, who it was right around Teacher Appreciation Month type of thing. And, teachers go through it a lot. Yeah. I mean, your mom knows. She taught you and your brother. So it's I mean, I'm sure that was a headache. Now do a class of 20 kids.
Oh, I was a headache for me. I wasn't even in some of the classes, and it was a headache for me.
Yeah, I know. So it's rough what teachers go through. And dude, the amount of happiness that those teachers had by me being there makes it all worth it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, a long answer to your question, definitely a 10.
A 10? Okay.
But the joy and fulfillment you get from it is also a 10. So awesome. It kind of balances it out.
Okay. Now, I just thought of this while you were kind of explaining that. I think being in coffee, do you think that helped you? Being hands-on with coffee before, do you think that helped you starting this up? That having that knowledge prior definitely helped you?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Because I had a firm grasp on what to look for. Do I actually need 75 millimeter burrs, or can I get by with 65 millimeter burrs?
Yeah.
Something like that helped me out.
Yeah.
I could have easily gone for 75 millimeter burr and crank out my espresso maybe a few seconds quicker.
Yeah.
But is it worth the $300+ more than my 65 millimeter?
Yeah.
And so having that idea, or knowing how a La Marzocco Linea Mini operates compared to a much more expensive Slayer. Slayer has a one group head that is amazing, and I love Slayer. We had Slayer at the donut shop, and it was a great machine, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it worth the $11,000 compared to the $6,000 of the Linea Mini?
Yeah.
And so, like, learning how to look at the specs and differentiate what is good for my needs.
Yeah.
And the price point. And so, like, that definitely helped. But also, like, it really helps not, like, if I didn't have any coffee experience prior to this, I wouldn't know how to dial in an espresso on the fly.
That's true. Yeah.
And the Marzocco, it's a manual machine. You don't have a shot counter. You don't have any kind of way of knowing like what my shot seconds are like.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, they give you spouted portafilters. They don't give you a bottomless portafilter. I had to buy that separately.
Like $100 for it or something.
Like 150, 160, I think.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's expensive, man. But it was if I didn't have if I was just using a spouted portafilter, not having any idea of coffee to begin with, I wouldn't know to look for channeling.
Yeah.
If it's coming out like a waterfall, I'd be like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't think about having to go finer, you know?
Oh, for sure.
And so it's like all these different things that definitely set me up. And that's not to say that you can't learn that stuff when starting out. You definitely can.
You probably will.
You won't be as quick with it if you like. If I was learning everything all at one time, I wouldn't be quick with it.
Yeah.
There was actually at that 3-year-old birthday party, I was outdoors and there's wind blowing. Well, I wouldn't know that would be affected had I not worked at the donut shop that had a drive-through window.
Yep.
You remember when the drive-through window was open,
the shots were going that way.
The wind was moving. The shots worked. And so, like, you definitely learn those things as you go.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I worked in a drive-through setting with coffee that knows, like, hey, that's going to affect it.
Yeah.
If I was learning on the fly, I'd waste 3 or 4 shots because I'd be like, why is it blowing?
Yeah.
Oh, the wind's moving. That's why. So I wouldn't know to pick up my shot glass up next to the spouts and then knowing how many ounces of espresso is supposed to be in that shot glass to move it down. You know, it's like the small details.
Yeah.
But it really helped me out because I can adjust my grind settings on the fly.
Yeah.
I know to make small amount of increment changes. I know what I'm looking for when I'm weighing out a shot to dose. And thankfully, like the Marzocco is pretty consistent with shots. It doesn't have a PID on it, so I really don't know. You know things that you miss on an actual commercial machine. Like it doesn't have a PID. It doesn't have the things that I need. It doesn't have any volumetrics on it. So it's like, but luckily enough, I'm able to do it.
Yeah.
And I know when it's wrong. And so, being in coffee as long as I had been really helped set me up for that. Yeah. Because I feel like if I didn't know what the heck I was talking about or how to do any of it. Yeah. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about column.
It'd be a disaster.
Yeah. It would be really rough. And so, I'm thankful for all of the stops that I've been at in my coffee journey that helped me with that because I've picked up small things from each place. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I had several more questions, but I feel like they have mostly gotten answered throughout just talking. So I'm glad that we didn't have to ask every single question, which was kind of nice. And we went a lot longer than what I was expecting. But I mean, dude, I feel like some good stuff came out of it. It was.
Well, I hope so. But
it was some nice stuff. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, man.
Yeah,
being the first official guest on. This is
it's an honor.
The first of many, hopefully, and maybe there'll be a part 2 after this because, again, I still had a bunch of more stuff to ask anyway. So there might be a part 2.
Anytime you want me on, just hit me up. I'll do it.
I'll let you know, man.
Love what you're doing, and I just encourage you to keep on going.
I appreciate that. You too, man.
Of course, appreciate that, man.
Thank you. Wow. What a good conversation we had in there. We had so many good conversations. And like I even said in there, I had a bunch of questions left on my laptop that I didn't get to answer and get through. But I'm so glad that the conversation was directed the way it did. And I think it just turned out perfectly. But if you guys want to see a part 2 to this and maybe hear some more from Blake and what he has to say, then like and subscribe and let me know in the comment section below. I know it was a little bit different than our typical norm here, but I hope you guys did enjoy it. I'm trying to switch up a little bit and do a little bit different content, kind of test the waters with everything a little bit. So I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next video.